Hello, wonderful learners. Welcome back to English in Advance. I am your host, Jessica, and I am so thrilled that you have decided to join me today. Whether you are listening to this on your morning commute, while you are cooking dinner, or just relaxing at home, you are doing something wonderful for yourself. You are taking a step forward in your English journey. Today we have a very special session planned. We are going to dive deep into the world of real, natural English. You know, often in textbooks we learn very formal ways to speak. We learn the grammar and the rules, which are important. But sometimes when we go out into the real world, we realize that people do not always speak like textbooks. Native speakers use specific phrases, idioms, and expressions that make conversations flow smoothly and feel more connected. So today we are going to master 50 English phrases that you will actually use. These are not obscure words you will never hear again. These are the tools you need for daily English speaking practice. Before we jump in, if you are enjoying our podcast and want to keep improving, please remember to subscribe to our channel English in Advance. It really helps us grow and reach more learners just like you. Now let us relax, take a deep breath, and get started with our first set of phrases. Let us begin with how we start a conversation. You probably already know how to say, "How are you?" That is the first thing we learn. But in day-to-day life, especially in the United States or the UK, we often use something a little more casual. Our first phrase today is, "How is it going?" This is a friendly alternative to "How are you?" It is perfect for friends, coworkers, or even the barista at your coffee shop. Notice the pronunciation. We often link the words together so it sounds like one smooth sound. How is it going? Imagine you walk into your office and you see a colleague by the water cooler. Instead of a stiff greeting, you can simply smile and say, "Hey Sarah, how is it going?" It invites an answer about their current situation or life in general, not just their health. It feels lighter and more engaging. Try saying it with me right now. How's it going? Excellent. Now, suppose you haven't seen someone for a long time. You run into an old friend from school at the supermarket. You are surprised and happy to see them. In this situation, saying hello is not enough to express that time has passed. The perfect phrase to use here is, "Long time no see." This is such a classic English phrase. It literally means that it had been a long time since we last saw each other. It is informal and full of warmth. You can use it with anyone you have a friendly history with. Picture that moment. You see your friend, your eyes go wide, and you say, "Oh my gosh, Jessica, long time no see." It instantly builds a bridge over the gap of time. It acknowledges that you miss them without being too emotional. Let us practice that together. Imagine you are seeing that friend. Smile and say, "Long time no see." It is a great way to restart a connection. Moving on, let us talk about how to answer these greetings. If someone asks you how you are or how it is going, and your life is generally fine, maybe not amazing, but certainly not bad, you can use the phrase, "Can't complain." This is a very common response. It implies that while things might have ups and downs, overall, life is good enough that complaining would be unnecessary. It shows you are a positive person. Imagine your neighbor sees you taking out the trash and asks how life is treating you. You can shrug your shoulders lightly and say, "Pretty good, can't complain." It is short, it is humble, and it sounds very natural. It is much better than just saying "fine, thank you" every single time. It adds a little bit of personality to your answer. So the next time someone asks how things are, Try saying, "can't complain." Let us shift gears a little bit to when you are in the middle of a conversation. Have you ever been chatting with someone and they tell you something surprising or inform you about a situation you did not know about? A great way to acknowledge this new information is to say, "good to know." This phrase is incredibly versatile. It signals to the speaker that you have received the information and you appreciate having it. For example, imagine you are planning a meeting and your coworker tells you that the conference room is booked until 2 o'clock. You can reply by saying, "Oh, that is good to know. We will meet in the cafeteria instead." It is a polite way of validating what they said. It confirms you are listening and processing the details. It is not overly emotional, just practical and polite. Try using it in your next conversation when someone gives you a helpful tip. Just say thanks. That is good to know. Sometimes conversations involve making plans. We all have busy lives, and sometimes we cannot give a definite answer right away. Maybe you and your friends want to go for dinner on Friday, but you are not sure if you will be tired after work. You do not want to set a strict time yet. In this case, you can use the phrase, "play it by ear." This is a fantastic idiom. It means to improvise or to decide what to do as the situation develops, rather than making a firm plan beforehand. It comes from music where you play without reading notes, just by listening. So, in real life, if your friend asks if you want to book a table at the restaurant, you might say, "let's not book yet. Let's just play it by ear and see how we feel on Friday." It takes the pressure off. It allows for flexibility. It is a very relaxed way to make plans. Repeat it after me. Let's play it by ear. It makes you sound very fluent and comfortable with the language. Now, let us talk about appreciation. We often say thank you, and that is perfect. But sometimes someone does something helpful for you, and you want to sound a bit more casual and grateful. A great phrase for this is, "I appreciate it." You can use this with strangers or friends. For instance, if you drop your pen and someone picks it up for you, instead of just thanks, you can say, "Thanks, I appreciate it." It adds a little more weight to your gratitude. It feels sincere. You can also use it when someone agrees to help you with a task. If your colleague says they will send you the report by noon, you can reply, "Great, I appreciate it." It is a staple of polite English conversation. It is a small phrase, but it leaves a very positive impression on the listener. Speaking of helping, what if you are the one who needs help? You could say, "Can you help me?" But a more native-sounding way to ask is, "Could you give me a hand?" This is a very visual phrase. You are asking for their hand to assist you. It is usually used for physical tasks, but it can be used for work tasks too. Imagine you are moving a heavy table. You might look at your brother and say, "Hey, could you give me a hand with this table?" Or if you are struggling to figure out a spreadsheet on your computer, you might ask a coworker, "Could you give me a hand with this data?" It sounds less desperate than "help me," and more like a collaborative request. It is friendly and approachable. Practice asking it. "Could you give me a hand?" It is a wonderful phrase to have in your vocabulary toolbox. Let us transition to a phrase we use when we want to stay informed. Imagine you are working on a project with a team, or you are planning a surprise party for a friend. You want to know if anything changes. You want to be included in the updates. The phrase to use here is, "keep me in the loop." Think of a loop as a circle. If you are in the loop, you are inside the circle of information. If you are out of the loop, you do not know what is going on. So telling someone to keep you in the loop means please tell me if there are any updates. It is very professional yet casual enough for friends. If your boss is going to a meeting about your project, you might say, please keep me in the loop regarding the client's feedback. It shows you are proactive and interested. It is a very empowering phrase to use. So remember, when you want updates, just say, keep me in the loop. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, things go wrong or mistakes happen. Maybe you bump into someone accidentally or you forget to bring a pen to a meeting. The other person might apologize to you, or you might need to reassure them that it is not a problem. A perfect laid-back phrase for this is, no biggie. This is short for no big deal. It is very slangy and casual. It instantly lowers the tension. If your friend says, sorry, I am 5 minutes late, you can smile and say, no biggie, we have plenty of time. It tells the other person that you are cool, calm, and not upset. It is a great way to show that you are easygoing. However, be careful not to use this in very formal or serious situations. If you make a major mistake at work, do not say no biggie to your boss. But for small daily annoyances, it is perfect. It makes you sound like a native speaker who is relaxed and comfortable. Let us look at a phrase that helps us express agreement. When someone says something and you agree with them completely, you can say, tell me about it. Now, this can be confusing because it sounds like a question or a command asking them to tell you more. But actually, it is an idiom that means I have experienced that too, or I completely agree because I know exactly what you mean. It is often used when complaining about something shared. For example, if your friend says, the traffic was absolutely terrible this morning, and you also sat in traffic, you would say, tell me about it. By saying this, you are validating their frustration and saying you shared that experience. You are connecting on a deeper level. It is a phrase of empathy. So the next time someone complains about the weather or a difficult situation that you understand well, just nod and say, tell me about it. We are making such great progress today. Let us add another valuable phrase to your collection. This one is used when you are just about to leave or when you are starting a journey. The phrase is, hit the road. It does not mean hitting the street physically. It simply means to leave or to start driving. It is very common in American English. Imagine you are at a dinner party and it is getting late. You look at your watch and see it is almost 11 o'clock. You might stand up and say, well, it is getting late. We better hit the road. It signals to everyone that you are departing. It is polite but firm. It suggests that you have a journey ahead of you. You can also use it when you are excited to start a vacation. You pack the car, look at your family, and say, let's hit the road. It implies movement and action. Try saying it to yourself. Time to hit the road. It has a nice energy to it. Now, let us discuss a phrase for when you make a mistake. We are all human, and we all make errors. When you want to apologize in a casual way, usually for something minor, you can say, my bad. This is very informal. It originated in sports but is now used everywhere in casual conversation. If you accidentally step on someone's shoe, or you hand someone the wrong coffee cup, you can quickly say, oops, my bad. It means I admit my mistake. It is an apology without the heaviness of saying, I am very sorry. It keeps the interaction light. Again, like no biggie, you should use this with friends or in casual settings. It shows you are humble enough to admit a mistake, but you are not letting it ruin your day. My bad. It is short, punchy, and very commonly used. let us talk about understanding. Sometimes someone is explaining something to you, and maybe it is complicated, but then suddenly you understand. The light bulb goes on in your head. In that moment, you can say, I get it. This is much more natural than saying, I understand. It feels immediate. If your friend explains a joke you did not understand at first, and then you laugh, you say, oh, now I get it. Or if your teacher explains a grammar rule and it finally makes sense, you can say, I get it now. It gives immediate feedback to the speaker that they have been successful in explaining. You can also use the negative version, I don't get it, when you are confused. It is a direct and honest way to communicate your level of understanding. So, do not be afraid to say, I get it, when clarity hits you. Another fantastic phrase for social interactions is, let's catch up. We use this when we want to talk to someone we haven't spoken to in a while. It implies having a conversation to update each other on your lives. It is different from just meeting. Meeting implies being in the same physical space, but catching up implies sharing stories and news. If you see that old friend we talked about earlier, you might say, we really need to catch up properly. Let's grab coffee next week. It shows you value the relationship and you want to know the details of their life. It is a phrase of connection. It tells the other person that they are important to you. So invite your friends to catch up. It is the best way to maintain friendships. As we continue through this list, I want you to think about how often you agree with people. Sometimes simple agreement isn't enough. You want to show you are willing to do something. The phrase, I'm down or I'm down for that is perfect here. It means you are willing and interested in participating. If your friend asks, do you want to go to the movies tonight? And you like that idea, you can say, yeah, I'm down. It is slang, but very acceptable slang in almost all social situations. It makes you sound enthusiastic and part of the group. It is much cooler than just saying, yes, I will go. It brings a sense of camaraderie. Are you down to learn more English? I hope you are saying, yes, I am down right now. Let us cover one more phrase for this section before we move forward. Sometimes you are listening to someone and they are making a very valid point. You want to acknowledge that what they are saying is true or clever. You can say, that's a good point. This is excellent for discussions, debates, or even just casual chats. It validates the other person's intelligence. If you are discussing where to eat and your partner says, we should go to the Italian place because it is closer and we are hungry, you can reply, that's a good point. Let's go there. It shows you are listening critically and you appreciate their logic. It builds respect in a conversation. It turns a monologue into a dialogue. We have covered quite a few phrases already, from greeting someone with, how is it going to agreeing with a plan by saying, I am down. These are the building blocks of natural fluency. When you use these, you stop sounding like a robot and start sounding like a person. Let us look at a phrase that helps when you are feeling tired or ready to stop working. This is a favorite for many people. The phrase is, call it a day. We use this when we decide to stop doing something, usually work, for the rest of the day. Imagine you have been working hard on a project since morning. It is now 6 in the evening, you are exhausted, and your brain is full. You look at your team and say, we have done a lot of good work. Let's call it a day. It means, let us go home and rest. It is a very satisfying phrase to say. It marks the boundary between work and personal time. You can also use it if you are studying. If you have been studying English for 2 hours and you feel tired, give yourself permission to call it a day. Rest is important too. Sometimes you need to ask for clarification. Maybe you didn't hear what someone said. Instead of just saying "what," which can sound a bit rude, or "pardon," which can sound very formal, you can say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that." This is polite and clear. It puts the blame slightly on you, implying you missed it, rather than blaming them for mumbling. It is soft and gentle. If you are on a phone call and the connection is bad and you miss a sentence, just say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that last part. Could you repeat it?" It is a very professional and polite way to ask for repetition. It ensures you get the information you need without making anyone feel awkward. What about when you are unsure about a decision? You have 2 choices and you cannot decide. You might say, "I am on the fence." Imagine a fence dividing 2 gardens. If you are sitting on the fence, you are not on one side or the other. You are in the middle. So, if someone asks, "Are you coming to the party on Saturday?" and you haven't decided yet, you can say, "I'm on the fence. I have a lot of work to do, so I am not sure." It is a very visual idiom that perfectly describes indecision. It tells the listener that you are considering it, but you are not ready to commit. It is perfectly okay to be on the fence sometimes. Let us talk about luck. When someone is about to do something difficult, like take a test or go for a job interview, we want to wish them well. The standard phrase is, "good luck." But a more fun, idiomatic way to say this, especially in the performing arts or just casually, is "break a leg." I know, it sounds terrible. Why would you want someone to break a bone? But ironically, it means good luck. It is very common. If your friend is going on stage to give a speech, you can give them a thumbs up and say "break a leg." They will understand you are wishing them success. It shows a bit of cultural knowledge, too. It is a warm, encouraging phrase wrapped in a strange idiom. We are moving through these phrases so well, I hope you are repeating them aloud. Speaking aloud is the key to memory. Let's try another one. Have you ever tried to learn something new, like driving a car or using a new software? At first it is difficult, but eventually you start to understand it. That moment when you start to understand is when you get the hang of it. This means you are learning the skill and becoming competent. You might say, "This new phone was confusing at first, but I am starting to get the hang of it." It implies a learning curve. It is a phrase of progress. It encourages you to keep going. If you are struggling with English prepositions, do not worry. Keep practicing, and you will get the hang of it. It is a promise of improvement. Let us reflect on the pacing of our lives. Sometimes we rush, but sometimes we need to tell someone to slow down or not to panic. A great phrase for this is, "hold your horses." Again, this is an idiom. It comes from the days when people rode horses. To stop, you had to hold the reins. Today we use it to tell someone to wait or be patient. If your children are running to the car because they are excited for ice cream, you might laugh and say, "Hold your horses, I need to get my keys first." Or if a colleague is jumping to a conclusion without all the data, you might say, "Let's hold our horses and check the facts first." It is a fun, slightly humorous way to ask for patience. It diffuses stress and slows things down to a manageable pace. Think about a situation where you are very busy. You have so much work to do that you feel overwhelmed. You can say, "I have a lot on my plate." This does not mean you have a lot of food. It means you have many responsibilities or tasks to deal with. It is a metaphor. If your friend invites you to lunch but you are swamped at work, you can say, "I would love to, but I have a lot on my plate right now. Can we do it next week?" It is a polite way to decline an invitation or explain your stress. People respect this phrase because everyone knows that feeling of having a full plate. It communicates your status clearly. Finally, for this section, let us talk about keeping secrets. If someone tells you something private and you want to assure them that you will not tell anyone else, you can say, "My lips are sealed." Imagine you have a zipper or glue on your lips. You cannot open them to speak the secret. It is a promise of confidentiality. If your friend tells you they are planning a surprise party for their spouse, you can say, "Don't worry, my lips are sealed." It builds trust. It tells them their secret is safe with you. Trust is the foundation of any good relationship, and this phrase solidifies that trust. Now that we have established these essential greetings and interactions, let us take that foundation and build a beautiful house upon it. We are going to explore phrases that help you express your inner thoughts, your opinions, and your feelings. We are going to look at idioms that add color to your stories and help you navigate the complexities of daily life, whether at work or with friends. Learning these phrases is like unlocking a secret level in a video game. Suddenly, everything becomes easier. You understand the jokes in movies, you follow the fast-paced conversations at dinner parties, and most importantly, you feel confident being yourself in English. Let us start with a phrase that is all about agreement. In life, it is a wonderful feeling when you meet someone who thinks exactly the way you do. Maybe you both love the same movies, or you share the same political views, or you agree on how to solve a problem at work. The perfect idiom to describe this connection is see eye to eye. When you see eye to eye with someone, it means you agree with them completely. You have the same perspective. Imagine you are in a meeting with your boss. You suggest a new marketing strategy, and your boss nods and says, "I think that is a brilliant idea." Later, you can tell your colleague, "My boss and I really see eye to eye on this project." It implies a harmony of thought. However, we often use this phrase in the negative too. It is very common to hear people say, "We don't see eye to eye." This is a polite and soft way of saying, "We disagree." Instead of saying, "We fight all the time," you can say, "We just don't see eye to eye on certain things." It sounds much more diplomatic. It suggests that you respect the other person, but your viewpoints are just different. Try to picture a person you agree with often. You can say to yourself, "We see eye to eye." It is a visual and memorable way to describe agreement. Building on that idea of agreement, there is another phrase that is very popular in the business world, but you will hear it in casual settings too. That phrase is on the same page. Imagine a choir singing from a songbook. If everyone is on page 10, but one person is on page 20, the music will sound terrible. Everyone needs to be on the same page for the harmony to work. In conversation, being on the same page means having a shared understanding of a situation. It means we all know the plan and we are working toward the same goal. Before a big family trip, you might gather everyone in the living room and say, "I want to make sure we are all on the same page about the itinerary." This ensures there is no confusion later. It is a phrase about clarity and alignment. If you feel confused in a conversation, you can ask a question to check. You can say, "Just to make sure we are on the same page, you want the report by Friday, right?" It is a fantastic tool for preventing misunderstandings. It shows you are responsible and organized. Now, sometimes you need to share an opinion that might be a little bit unpopular, or perhaps you just want to emphasize your sincerity. A great phrase to start your sentence with is, "to be honest." You will hear native speakers use this constantly. Sometimes they shorten it to just honestly. It signals to the listener that you are dropping your social mask and speaking your true mind. For example, if your friend asks you if you like her new dress and you think it is not her best look, you might say, "To be honest, I think the blue one looked better on you." It softens the blow of the criticism because you are framing it as your sincere truth, not just a mean comment. You can also use it to express vulnerability. You might say, "To be honest, I am really nervous about this interview." It draws the listener in. It creates a moment of intimacy. It says, "I trust you enough to tell you the truth." Practice using it. Start a sentence with, "To be honest," and see how it changes the tone of your voice. It usually makes you sound more grounded and authentic. Let us move to a phrase we use when we hope for good luck. This is a gesture as well as a phrase. We say, "Keep your fingers crossed," or "I will keep my fingers crossed for you." Physically, you might actually cross your middle finger over your index finger. This is a superstition that dates back a long time, meant to ward off bad luck and invite good fortune. Today, it simply means, "I hope for the best outcome." If your sister is waiting to hear back from a university application, you can tell her, "I have my fingers crossed for you." It is a sweet, supportive thing to say. It means I am cheering for you. You can also use it for yourself. If you are running to catch a bus, you might think, "Fingers crossed, I make it on time." It is a phrase of hope and optimism. It adds a nice positive energy to your conversations. So, fingers crossed that you are enjoying this lesson so far. Now let us talk about health. We all have days where we do not feel 100%. Maybe you have a slight headache or a cold, or you are just feeling a bit tired and off. You are not terribly sick, but you are not well. The perfect idiom for this is "under the weather." It paints a picture of being affected by the bad weather, perhaps feeling gloomy or low energy. If a coworker notices you are quiet and asks if you are okay, you can say, "I am feeling a bit under the weather today." It is a polite way to explain why you might not be your usual cheerful self without giving too many gross medical details. You do not need to say, "I have a runny nose and a stomach ache." You just say, "I am under the weather." It is professional and discreet. It is also very commonly used when calling in sick to work. You might text your boss, "I am under the weather today, so I will not be coming in." It is a phrase everyone understands immediately. Money is another topic that comes up often in daily life. Sometimes things are very expensive. Instead of just saying "that is expensive," native speakers love to use the hyperbole. "It costs an arm and a leg." This is a funny image. It suggests that the price is so high you would have to sell your own limbs to pay for it. Of course, it is not literal, but it effectively communicates shock at a high price. If you are looking at luxury cars, you might say, "Wow, that car is beautiful, but it costs an arm and a leg." Or if you went to a fancy restaurant and the bill was huge, you could tell your friend dinner was delicious, but it cost an arm and a leg. It emphasizes the sacrifice of money. It makes your story more dramatic and engaging. It is much more colorful than saying it was pricey. On the other end of the spectrum, let us talk about something that is very easy. When a task requires almost no effort, we call it a piece of cake. This is one of the most delicious idioms in the English language. Imagine eating a piece of cake. It is easy, it is enjoyable, and it requires no struggle. That is the feeling this phrase conveys. If you are good at math and someone asks you to solve a simple problem, you can say, "Oh, that is a piece of cake." If you were worried about a job interview, but it turned out to be very relaxed, you could come home and say, "It was a piece of cake." It expresses relief and confidence. It tells the world that you are capable and that the challenge was nothing for you. So I hope that learning these phrases feels like a piece of cake for you. Let us discuss frequency. Some things happen every day, like sunrise. Other things happen very rarely. When something is extremely rare, we say it happens once in a blue moon. A blue moon is a real astronomical phenomenon, but it is rare. So this phrase means hardly ever. If you have a friend who lives in another country and you only see them every few years, you can say we only see each other once in a blue moon. Or maybe you are very strict with your diet, but occasionally you treat yourself to chocolate. You could say, "I eat sweets once in a blue moon." It emphasizes the scarcity of the event. It makes those moments seem more special because they do not happen often. It is a poetic way to talk about time and frequency. Now, imagine you are talking to someone and they are taking a long time to get to the point. They are talking about the weather, their cat, their lunch, but they are not telling you the important news. You might want them to stop beating around the bush. This idiom comes from hunting, where people would hit the bushes to scare birds out, but they wouldn't hit the bird directly. In conversation, it means avoiding the main topic because you are nervous or stalling. If you are the one who is nervous to ask for a raise, you might catch yourself rambling and say, "Sorry, I am beating around the bush." Let me be direct. It shows self-awareness. Conversely, if someone else is stalling, you can gently say, "Let's not beat around the bush." What is the problem? It is a call for clarity and directness. The opposite of beating around the bush is to cut to the chase. This phrase comes from the movie industry. In old silent films, the most exciting part was the chase sequence. So cutting to the chase meant skipping the boring dialogue and getting to the action. In conversation, it means getting to the main point immediately. If you are in a hurry and your colleague is telling a long story, you might look at your watch and say, "I have a meeting in 5 minutes, so can we cut to the chase?" It can be a little blunt, so use it carefully. It is best used when time is limited or when you have a close relationship with the person. It signals that you value efficiency. It says, "Let us focus on what really matters right now." Sometimes in life we have to do something unpleasant. Maybe you have to go to the dentist, or you have to make a difficult phone call, or you have to pay a large bill. You have been avoiding it, but you know it must be done. The phrase for facing this brave moment is "bite the bullet." This is a historical phrase from before anesthesia, where soldiers would literally bite on a bullet during surgery to cope with the pain. Today it means to endure a painful or otherwise unpleasant situation that is seen as unavoidable. You stop procrastinating and just do it. You might say, "I have to call my ex-boyfriend to get my keys back. I am just going to bite the bullet and do it tonight." It shows courage. It shows determination. It transforms you from a victim of the situation into someone who is taking action. Next time you have a tough task, tell yourself just bite the bullet. It helps you gather your strength. Let us talk about secrets again. We learned my lips are sealed in the last part. But what happens if the secret gets out accidentally? Then we say you let the cat out of the bag. This suggests that the secret, like a cat, was hidden, but now it is running around for everyone to see. Once the cat is out, you cannot put it back in. If you accidentally reveal the surprise party to the birthday girl, you have let the cat out of the bag. You might say, "Oh no, I mentioned the cake and now the cat is out of the bag." It is a vivid way to describe a revealed secret. It acknowledges that the damage is done and now everyone knows. It is a very common idiom used in news, in gossip, and in family life. Efficiency is something we all strive for. If you can complete 2 tasks at the same time with one single action, you are killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This sounds a bit violent, but it is purely metaphorical. It means achieving 2 objectives with a single effort. For example, if you listen to this podcast while you are jogging, you are exercising your body and your mind at the same time. You are killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Or if you have to go to the bank and the grocery store is right next door, you can visit both in one trip. That is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It is a phrase of smart management. It makes you feel productive. We all love that feeling of being efficient, and this phrase celebrates that. Sometimes, unfortunately, a bad situation gets worse. Imagine you fall down and scrape your knee and then it starts to rain on you. The rain makes the bad situation of falling even worse. We call this adding insult to injury. It means to make a bad situation worse by doing something else to upset the person. For instance, if you get fired from your job and then your car breaks down on the way home, the car trouble is adding insult to injury. It feels unfair. It feels like the universe is piling on problems. You might say he was already late for the date, but forgetting my name just added insult to injury. It is a powerful phrase to describe a series of unfortunate events. It validates the feeling that things are piling up against you. On a happier note, sometimes you can have everything you want. You do not have to choose between 2 good things. You can have both. This is called the best of both worlds. Imagine you work from home. You have the professional salary of a city job, but the comfort and quiet of living in the countryside. You have the best of both worlds. You enjoy the advantages of 2 different situations simultaneously. It is a phrase of contentment and satisfaction. If you are learning English and you enjoy the process, you are gaining a skill and having fun. That is the best of both worlds. It reminds us to look for the sweet spots in life where we do not have to compromise. Let us shift to a phrase about listening. Sometimes you are explaining something and you want to know if the other person is understanding you. You can ask, "Does that make sense?" This is a very common check-in phrase. It is not rude. It shows you care about being clear. After you give directions to a tourist, you might ask, "Does that make sense?" It gives them permission to say no if they are confused. It is a sign of a good communicator. Conversely, if someone explains something to you and it is logical, you can say, "That makes sense." It is a validation of their explanation. It closes the loop of communication. It confirms that the message has been sent and received successfully. Now think about a time when you were very tired of a situation. Maybe your neighbor plays loud music every night, or your computer keeps crashing. You have reached your limit. You can say, "I am fed up." To be fed up means you have no more patience left. You are annoyed and disappointed. You might say, "I am fed up with this rain. It has been raining for a week." Or I am fed up with the traffic in this city. It is a strong phrase, so use it when you really mean it. It signals that you need a change. It is an emotional release. It is okay to be fed up sometimes. Acknowledging it is the first step to fixing the problem. Let us look at a phrase for when you need to make a decision. We talked about being on the fence earlier. When you finally decide, you make up your mind. This refers to the process of reaching a conclusion. You can use it as a statement or a question. If you are at an ice cream shop and your friend is taking forever to choose a flavor, you can laugh and say, "Come on, make up your mind." Or you can say about yourself, "I finally made up my mind and bought the red shoes." It implies a process of thinking that has now ended. It is a decisive phrase. It feels good to make up your mind. It means you are moving forward. Sometimes people or things can be difficult. If someone is causing you problems or teasing you, you can say, "You are giving me a hard time." This can be serious or playful. If your boss is constantly criticizing your work, you might complain to your spouse, "My boss is really giving me a hard time this week." That is serious. But if your friend is teasing you about your new haircut, you can smile and say, "Stop giving me a hard time." That is playful. It depends on your tone of voice. It is a versatile phrase that describes friction in a relationship. It is a good way to stand up for yourself or to banter with friends. We also have a phrase for when we want to relax. Life is stressful, and sometimes we need to calm down. The phrase is, "Take it easy." This can be a command to yourself or advice to a friend. If your friend is working too hard and looks exhausted, you can say, "You need to take it easy this weekend." It means rest, relax, do not do too much. We also use it as a way to say goodbye. Instead of just goodbye, you can say, "Take it easy." It is a very friendly, laid-back farewell. It wishes the other person a relaxed time. It sends positive vibes. So if you are feeling stressed about learning English, remember to take it easy. Enjoy the process. Let us talk about memory. Have you ever forgotten something and then suddenly remembered it? Or maybe a name sounds familiar, but you cannot quite place it. We say it rings a bell. This phrase comes from the idea that a bell sound alerts you to something. If someone asks, "Do you know a man named John Smith?" and the name sounds familiar, you can say, "The name rings a bell, but I cannot remember his face." It means there is a faint memory there. It is a great phrase for those moments of partial recall. It is very common in detective movies and daily mysteries. It implies that the memory is there, just out of reach. What about when you want to contribute to a group effort? Maybe you and your friends are buying a gift for someone, or you are ordering a pizza to share. Everyone needs to contribute money. The phrase is to chip in. You might say, "If we all chip in $10, we can buy her a really nice present." It suggests collective action. It is about community and sharing the burden. It makes a large cost seem small because everyone is helping. You can also chip in with help, not just money. You can say, "I will chip in and help clean up after the party." It shows you are a team player. It is a very social and cooperative phrase. Let us consider a situation where you are unsure about the future. Maybe you are waiting for news. You can say everything is up in the air. Imagine balloons floating in the sky. They haven't landed yet. You do not know where they will land. That is the feeling of this phrase. If someone asks about your holiday plans and you haven't booked anything yet because of work, you can say, "Our plans are still up in the air." It conveys uncertainty, but not necessarily in a bad way. It just means nothing is settled. It is a comfortable way to say, I do not know yet. It manages expectations effectively. Sometimes we need to ask someone to wait for a short moment. A polite way to say this is hang on a second or just hang on. It is casual. If you are on the phone and the doorbell rings, you say, hang on a second, I need to get the door. It is much more natural than saying, please wait. It feels active. It implies you will be right back. You can also use it to interrupt someone if you are confused. Hang on, did you say Tuesday or Thursday? It stops the flow of conversation so you can clarify. It is a useful tool for managing the pace of a dialogue. Let us discuss the concept of leaving things as they are. Sometimes trying to fix a small problem creates a bigger problem. In this case, we say, let sleeping dogs lie. Imagine a big dog sleeping. If you wake it up, it might bite you. So it is better to leave it alone. If you and your friend had an argument last week, but you are getting along now, do not bring up the argument again. Let sleeping dogs lie. It is advice to avoid restarting old conflicts. It is a phrase of peace and prudence. It shows you know when to be quiet and let things be. We are making such wonderful progress. Let us add a phrase about starting over. Sometimes a project fails. You try to fix it, but it just doesn't work. You have to go back to the beginning. We call this going back to the drawing board. Architects use drawing boards to design buildings. If the building collapses, they must go back to the drawing board to design it again. If your plan to organize the office fails, you might say, well, that didn't work. Back to the drawing board. It admits failure, but it is optimistic because it implies you are going to try again. You are not quitting. You are just restarting. It is a phrase of resilience. Here is a phrase for when you are listening very vaguely or maybe you are biased. We say you are sitting on your high horse. No, wait, that is for arrogance. Let's look at play devil's advocate. This is when you argue for the opposite side, not because you believe it, but because you want to test the argument or explore all possibilities. If your team thinks an idea is perfect, you might say, I am going to play devil's advocate. What if the client hates the color? You are not saying the client will hate it, you are just raising the question to be thorough. It is a very intellectual phrase. It is useful in debates and critical thinking. It shows you can look at a situation from multiple angles. Let us talk about improvisation again. We learned play it by ear earlier. A similar phrase, often used for speeches or presentations, is to wing it. This means to do something without preparation. If you forgot to study for a presentation, you might have to wing it. You rely on your instincts and current knowledge. You might say, I didn't write a speech, I am just gonna wing it. It sounds brave and a little risky. It suggests confidence in your ability to handle the moment. While it is better to prepare, knowing you can wing it if necessary is a great confidence booster. Now, as we continue our deep dive, we are stepping into the professional world and the nuanced dance of social interactions. We are going to explore phrases that will help you sound confident in meetings, handle problems with grace, and communicate effectively when the stakes are a little higher. Whether you are aiming for a promotion, trying to fit in with a new group of friends, or just want to sound sharper and more articulate, these next phrases are for you. Let us begin with a phrase that is indispensable in the workplace. Imagine you are working on a team project. Everyone is busy and sometimes people lose focus. You want to remind your team to stay focused on the main goal. The perfect phrase for this is, keep your eye on the ball. This idiom comes from sports like baseball or tennis. If you look away from the ball, you will miss it. In business or life, if you lose focus on your objective, you will fail. You might say to your team, I know these little problems are annoying, but let's keep our eye on the ball and finish the project by Friday. It is a leadership phrase. It shows that you are results-oriented. It encourages discipline and focus. It reminds everyone of what is truly important. So in your English learning journey, keep your eye on the ball. Do not worry about small mistakes. Focus on communication. Now, let us talk about starting something new. When you begin a project, you want to start it well. You want to start off on the right foot. This implies beginning a relationship or an activity in a positive and successful way. If you have a new boss, you want to be on time and prepared so you can start off on the right foot. It is about first impressions. You might say, I want to start off on the right foot with my new neighbors, so I bake them some cookies. It shows intention and care. Conversely, if things go wrong at the beginning, we say you started off on the wrong foot. But do not worry, even if you start on the wrong foot, you can always recover. But aiming to start on the right foot is always the best strategy. Sometimes in a professional setting, you need to contact someone you do not know. Maybe you need to email a potential client or call a stranger for information. We call this a cold call or cold email. It is cold because there is no prior warmth or relationship. It can be intimidating. You might say, I have to make 20 cold calls today to find new customers. It acknowledges the difficulty of the task. It is a specific business term that has made its way into general conversation. It implies bravery and persistence. If you reach out to someone on LinkedIn whom you have never met, you are sending a cold message. It is a standard part of networking, so do not be afraid of it. Let us discuss decision-making again. Sometimes you have to make a choice, but you do not have all the information yet. Or perhaps the situation is changing rapidly. You might say, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. This is a beautiful idiom. It means we will deal with that problem when it actually happens, not before. It advises against worrying about future possibilities that might not even occur. If your colleague asks, what if the client hates the color blue, but you haven't even chosen a color yet? You can say, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, let's just focus on the design. It reduces anxiety. It keeps you focused on the present moment. It is a phrase of practical wisdom. In the workplace and in life, communication is key. Sometimes you need to update someone quickly. You can say, I just wanted to touch base. To touch base means to make brief contact with someone, usually to update them or get an update. It comes from baseball, where players have to touch the bases. It is less formal than requesting a meeting. You might send an email saying, hi, just wanted to touch base regarding the report. Is it ready? It sounds friendly and low pressure. It implies a quick check-in rather than a long, drawn-out conversation. It is one of the most common business phrases in English. Use it to maintain your professional relationships without being intrusive. Now imagine you are in a meeting and you are brainstorming ideas. Everyone is thinking traditionally. You want to encourage creativity. You might ask everyone to think outside the box. This is a classic cliché, but it is still very useful. It means to think creatively, unconventionally, or from a new perspective. The box represents traditional, standard thinking. You want to step out of that limitation. You might say, we need to think outside the box to solve this budget problem. It invites innovation. It tells people that no idea is too crazy to consider. It liberates the mind to explore new possibilities. On the topic of work, sometimes you have too much of it. We discussed having a lot on your plate earlier. Another vivid phrase for being extremely busy is buried in work or swamped. If you say I am buried, it creates an image of you being under a pile of papers. If you say I am swamped, it brings to mind a swamp where you are stuck in mud. Both mean you are overwhelmed. If your friend asks for a favor, you can say I am so sorry, I am buried in work right now. Can I help you later? It is a clear and justifiable reason for being unavailable. It garners sympathy because everyone knows that feeling of being buried under responsibilities. Let us shift to a social dynamic. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt uncomfortable or out of place? Maybe you went to a party where you didn't know anyone, or you tried a new hobby that was too difficult. You can say, I felt like a fish out of water. A fish needs water to survive and move gracefully. On land, it is awkward and struggling. That is the feeling this idiom describes. You might say, at that fancy dinner with all those rich people, I felt like a fish out of water. It expresses vulnerability. It explains why you were quiet or awkward. It is a very relatable phrase because everyone has felt like a fish out of water at some point in their lives. Sometimes you need to make a guess, but not just a random guess, a guess based on intuition or a quick estimation. We call this a ballpark figure. This comes from baseball stadiums which are enclosed but large. If the ball is in the park, it is within the boundaries. So a ballpark figure is a rough estimate that is within the range of accuracy. If you ask a contractor how much a renovation will cost, you might say, just give me a ballpark figure. You are not asking for the exact price down to the penny. You just want to know if it is $5,000 or $50,000. It manages expectations. It allows the conversation to proceed without needing precise data immediately. Let us talk about listening again. Sometimes you hear a rumor. You are not sure if it is true, but you heard it from someone. You can say, I heard it through the grapevine. The grapevine represents the informal network of gossip and communication that spreads through a group of people. It is how news travels unofficially. You might say, I heard through the grapevine that the boss is retiring next year. It protects your source. You are not saying who told you. You are just attributing it to the general flow of information. It is a somewhat mysterious and fun phrase to use when discussing rumors or news that hasn't been officially announced. Now consider a situation where you have to work late into the night. Maybe you are studying for an exam or finishing a project. We say you are burning the midnight oil. This phrase comes from the old days when people used oil lamps. To work late, you had to burn more oil. Today, we have electricity, but the phrase remains. You might tell your teacher, I was burning the midnight oil last night to finish this essay. It emphasizes your hard work and dedication. It implies sacrifice. It paints a picture of a solitary light on in a dark house. It commands respect for your effort. In business and negotiations, it is important to be clear. Sometimes people argue about small details and miss the main point. To bring them back to reality, you can say, let's get down to brass tacks. This means let us discuss the essential basic facts or the practical details. The origin is debated, but the meaning is clear. Stop the fluff and focus on the substance. If a meeting is dragging on with pleasantries, you can say vividly, okay everyone, Let's get down to brass tacks. How much will this cost? It signals a shift to serious business. It shows you are a no-nonsense person who values efficiency. Let us look at a phrase for when you are undecided or neutral. We talked about sitting on the fence. A similar concept, but often used when you are not involved in the decision, is to sit on the sidelines. In sports, the players on the field are active. The players on the sidelines are watching. If you are sitting on the sidelines, you are observing but not participating. You might say, I decided to sit on the sidelines during the argument between my brothers. It means you chose not to get involved. It can also imply that you are waiting for the right moment to act. It is a strategic position. What about when something happens very quickly, in the blink of an eye? This is a very literal idiom. Blinking takes a fraction of a second. So, if something happens in the blink of an eye, it happens almost instantly. You might say the accident happened in the blink of an eye. 1 minute we were driving, the next we were stopped. It emphasizes the speed and suddenness of an event. It reminds us how quickly life can change. It is a powerful phrase for storytelling, adding drama and immediacy to your narrative. Sometimes you have to accept a difficult reality. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, or your team lost the game. You have to face the music. This means to accept the unpleasant consequences of your actions or the reality of a situation. It is often used when someone has done something wrong and must now be punished or scolded. A teenager who broke a window must go home and face the music. It implies courage and responsibility. It means stopping the denial and dealing with the truth. It is a strong character-building phrase. Let us talk about similarity. If two people are very similar in character or behavior, we say they are two peas in a pod. Peas grow in pods, and the peas inside usually look identical. So if you and your best friend finish each other's sentences and like the same food, you are like two peas in a pod. It is a cute, affectionate phrase. It celebrates connection and similarity. You can say my daughter and her grandmother are two peas in a pod. It paints a lovely picture of their relationship. Now imagine you are in a situation where you have the advantage. You are in control. We say you have the upper hand. This comes from hand games or fighting, where the person with their hand on top has the advantage. In business, if you have a unique product that everyone wants, you have the upper hand in negotiations. In a game, if you are winning, you have the upper hand. It describes power dynamics. You might say, we need to research the market carefully so we can get the upper hand over our competitors. It is a phrase of strategy and dominance. Sometimes you try to do something good, but it goes wrong. Or maybe you are judging a book by its cover. A great idiom to remind us that appearances can be deceiving is, all that glitters is not gold. This is a proverb from Shakespeare. It means that just because something looks shiny and valuable on the outside, it does not mean it is valuable on the inside. If your friend wants to buy a cheap car that looks nice but has a bad engine, you might warn them, remember, all that glitters is not gold. It is a phrase of wisdom. It encourages critical thinking and looking deeper than the surface. Let us discuss opportunity. Opportunities do not last forever. If you wait too long, you might miss your chance. The phrase for this is, that ship has sailed. Imagine standing on a dock, watching a ship leave. Once it is gone, you cannot get on it. It is too late. If you wanted to buy tickets to a concert but they are sold out, you can say, well, I guess that ship has sailed. It signifies acceptance of a missed opportunity. It helps you move on. Instead of regretting, you acknowledge it is too late and look for the next ship. It is a healthy way to deal with disappointment. On the other hand, sometimes you are just in time. You arrive at the very last moment before it is too late. We say you made it in the nick of time. The nick refers to a precise marker of time. If the deadline is 5 o'clock and you submit your paper at 4:59, you submitted it in the nick of time. It implies relief and excitement. You might say, "We caught the train in the nick of time. The doors were closing as we jumped on." It adds suspense to your stories. It highlights the narrow margin between success and failure. Let us talk about honesty and openness again. If you have nothing to hide, if you are being completely transparent, you can say, "I have nothing to hide," or "I am an open book." To be an open book means you are easy to read and understand. You do not keep secrets. You might say, "Ask me anything. I am an open book." It invites trust. It shows you are comfortable with who you are. In a relationship, being an open book can bring people closer. It removes barriers. Sometimes we need to talk about money and budgeting. If you are careful with money, you might say, "I am pinching pennies." This gives the visual of holding a penny so tight you are pinching it. It means being very frugal and saving money wherever possible. You might say, "We are pinching pennies right now because we want to buy a house next year." It explains why you might not want to go out to expensive dinners. It frames your frugality as a disciplined choice for a future goal, rather than just being cheap. It is a respectable way to talk about budget constraints. Let us look at a phrase for when you are extremely happy. You are not just happy, you are over the moon. Imagine jumping so high with joy that you go over the moon. It is a delightful image. If you get engaged, or get a promotion, or have a baby, you are over the moon. You might say, "When I heard the news, I was absolutely over the moon." It expresses a high level of euphoria. It is much stronger than saying "I was happy." It conveys a sense of magic and wonder. Now consider a situation where you have to retract what you said. You said something confident, but it turned out to be wrong. We say you have to eat your words. It is a humbling experience. It means admitting you were wrong, often after being arrogant. If you said that team would never win, and then they win the championship, you have to eat your words. It implies swallowing your pride. You might say, "I told him he couldn't fix the car, but he did. I had to eat my words." It shows you are capable of admitting error. It makes you more human and relatable. Let us talk about comprehension. Sometimes something is very easy to understand. It is obvious, we call it a no-brainer. This means the decision requires no brain power because the choice is so clear. If someone offers you a free vacation or a slap in the face, choosing the vacation is a no-brainer. You might say, "Accepting that job offer was a no-brainer. The salary was double what I was making." It justifies your decision immediately. It tells the listener that there was really only one logical choice. What about when you are in a difficult situation with no easy escape? You are between a rock and a hard place. Imagine being physically stuck between a rock and a wall. You cannot move. This phrase describes a dilemma where you have two options, and both are bad. If you stay at your job, you are bored, but if you quit, you have no money. You are between a rock and a hard place. You might say, "I really don't know what to do. I am stuck between a rock and a hard place." It invites empathy. It explains your hesitation. It vividly portrays the difficulty of your position. Let us discuss effort. Sometimes you do the bare minimum, but other times You do more than is expected. You go the extra mile. This reference has become a common idiom for excellence. It means to make a special effort to achieve something or help someone. A good customer service agent goes the extra mile to solve your problem. You might say, I want to thank Sarah for going the extra mile on this project. It is a high compliment. It distinguishes average performance from exceptional performance. If you want to succeed in English, go the extra mile. Study for 5 extra minutes. Learn 1 extra word. It adds up. Sometimes you need to summarize a long story. You want to give the conclusion without all the details. You can say, to make a long story short. This signals that you are skipping to the end. You might say, we got lost, the car broke down, and it started raining. To make a long story short, we missed the wedding. It respects the listener's time. It focuses on the outcome. It is a very common transitional phrase in storytelling. It keeps the conversation moving. Let us look at a phrase for when you are suspicious. Something doesn't feel right. You can say, I smell a rat. This means you suspect trickery or deception. It is intuitive. You might not have proof, but your gut tells you something is wrong. You might say, the offer sounds too good to be true. I smell a rat. It alerts others to be careful. It shows you are perceptive and cautious. It is a dramatic way to express doubt. Now imagine you are very angry. You lose your temper. We say you fly off the handle. This refers to an axe head flying off its handle, becoming dangerous and uncontrolled. If you lose your temper suddenly and unexpectedly, you fly off the handle. You might say, I am sorry I flew off the handle yesterday. I was just very stressed. It is a way to describe an emotional explosion. It acknowledges that the reaction was perhaps excessive. It is a useful phrase for apologizing or describing a heated argument. Let us talk about conformity. Sometimes you just do what everyone else is doing. You jump on the bandwagon. A bandwagon was a wagon that carried a musical band in a parade. People would jump on it to be part of the excitement. Today, it means adopting a popular trend or belief just because others are doing it. If everyone starts wearing a certain brand of shoes and you buy them too, you are jumping on the bandwagon. You might say, I am not usually a sports fan, but I jumped on the bandwagon when our local team made the finals. It admits that your interest is based on the current trend. It is honest and slightly self-deprecating. Let us talk about ending a conflict. If you have had a disagreement with someone, but you want to move forward, you can say, let's bury the hatchet. This comes from Native American traditions of burying weapons to symbolize peace. It means to stop fighting and become friends again. You might tell your rival, we've been competing for years. Let's bury the hatchet and work together. It is a powerful invitation to peace. It shows maturity and a desire for harmony. It closes the chapter on conflict and opens a new chapter of cooperation. And now, for the final leg of our journey, let us have some fun. We are going to explore phrases that add humor to your conversations, phrases that help you tell better stories, and idioms that offer timeless wisdom about life, risks, and relationships. Let us start with a phrase that is perfect for storytelling. Have you ever been talking about someone, maybe a friend, a coworker, or a family member, and suddenly, at that exact moment, they walk into the room? It is a strange coincidence. In English, we have a perfect phrase for this. We say, speak of the devil. It is short for the old proverb, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. But don't worry, it is not evil or rude. It is actually quite friendly and funny. Imagine you are telling your colleague about how much you enjoyed John's presentation, and then John walks by your desk. You would smile and say, "Well, speak of the devil, we were just talking about you." It acknowledges the coincidence perfectly. It makes the person feel included in the conversation immediately. It turns an awkward moment into a moment of connection. So the next time someone appears just as you mention their name, remember to say, "Speak of the devil." Now let us talk about optimism. Life is full of challenges, and sometimes things happen that seem terrible at first. Maybe you lose your job, or you miss a flight, or you get sick and cannot go to a party. But later, you realize that this bad event actually led to something wonderful. Maybe losing that job forced you to start your own business, which you now love. We call this a blessing in disguise. It means a misfortune that eventually results in something good. It is a phrase of hindsight and gratitude. You might say, "Missing that train was a blessing in disguise because I met my future husband at the station while waiting for the next one." It reminds us that we do not always know the full story when bad things happen. It encourages us to trust the process of life. It is a beautiful perspective to have. Let us move to a phrase that expresses enthusiasm for innovation. When something is really, really useful or amazing, we often joke that it is the best thing since sliced bread. This is a funny historical reference. When sliced bread was first sold in stores in the early 20th century, it was a revolution in convenience. People loved it. So now, whenever we see a great new invention, we compare it to sliced bread. If you get a new smartphone that organizes your whole life, you might tell your friends, "This app is the best thing since sliced bread." It is a hyperbolic way to say "I love this." It shows you are excited and impressed. It adds a little bit of vintage charm to your modern enthusiasm. Sometimes in conversation, people tell us things that might not be 100% true. Maybe they are exaggerating, or maybe they are just guessing. When you listen to information that might be questionable, you should take it with a grain of salt. This means you should not believe it completely. You should be a little skeptical. Imagine you are reading a review of a restaurant online, but the review is written by someone who complains about everything. You might tell your friend the food looks good, but take that bad review with a grain of salt. That person seems very angry. It protects you from being misled. It shows you have critical thinking skills. It is a wise way to navigate gossip and unverified news. We talked about responsibility earlier, but here is another great phrase for it. Imagine you are playing tennis. When the ball is on your side of the net, you are the only one who can hit it. You are in control. In life, when it is your turn to make a decision or take action, we say, "The ball is in your court." This is often used after a negotiation or an offer. If you have done everything you can to help someone, and now they need to decide, you can say, "I have given you all the information. Now the ball is in your court." It sets a boundary. It tells the other person that you are waiting for them. It relieves you of the pressure and places it gently on them. Now let us look at a phrase for when you make a mistake in your assumptions. Imagine a dog barking at a tree because it thinks a cat is up there, but the cat has actually jumped to another tree. The dog is barking up the wrong tree. We use this idiom when someone is accusing the wrong person or pursuing a mistaken course of action. If the police suspect the wrong man for a crime, they are barking up the wrong tree. If you think the problem with your computer is the screen, but it is actually the battery, You are barking up the wrong tree. It is a vivid way to say you are looking in the wrong place. It saves time by redirecting focus to the real issue. Let us discuss risk management. We all know that life involves risk, but a wise person manages that risk. A classic proverb for this is, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you drop the basket, all the eggs break. You lose everything." So, in finance, relationships, and life, you should diversify. If you are applying for jobs, do not apply to just one company. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Apply to 10. If you are investing money, do not buy just one stock. Spread it out. This phrase is a cornerstone of prudent living. It advises you to have a backup plan. It is a phrase that parents often tell their children, and for good reason. It is timeless advice. Sometimes you encounter people who are rude or unkind. Your instinct might be to be rude back to them, but there is another strategy. You can kill them with kindness. This means being so excessively nice and polite to a rude person that they feel ashamed of their behavior and stop. It is a strategy of taking the high road. If a customer is yelling at you, instead of yelling back, you smile and say, "I am so sorry you are upset. Let me do everything I can to fix this for you." That is killing them with kindness. It disarms the other person. It shows that you are in control of your emotions. It transforms a conflict into a victory for your character. We all deal with stress. Life can be like a pressure cooker. If you do not release the steam, it might explode. So we use the phrase, "let off steam," to describe doing something to get rid of strong feelings or energy. You might go for a run, scream into a pillow, or vent to a friend. You might say, "I had a terrible week, so I went to the gym to let off steam." It acknowledges that emotions are physical. We need to release them. It is a healthy concept. So find your way to let off steam and talk about it in English. It shows you value mental health and balance. Let us talk about effort and reward. If you go to the gym, you know that building muscle hurts a little bit. That is where we get the phrase, "no pain, no gain." It means you cannot achieve anything worthwhile without some suffering or hard work. It is used in sports, studying, and business. If you are tired of studying English grammar, remind yourself, "no pain, no gain." It is a mantra for resilience. It validates the struggle. It tells you that the difficulty you are feeling right now is the price of the success you will have later. It is a very motivating phrase to have in your vocabulary. We mentioned keeping your eye on the ball earlier. A similar phrase, but describing a person who is alert and efficient, is to be on the ball. If someone is on the ball, they are quick to understand and react. They are competent. You might say, "Our new assistant is really on the ball. She finished the report before I even asked for it." It is a high compliment. It implies intelligence and preparedness. You want to be known as someone who is on the ball. It means people can rely on you. Now let us bring some humor back. Sometimes we joke with people. We tell them something that isn't true just to tease them. We call this pulling someone's leg. It is a playful idiom. If you tell your friend that you won the lottery and they look shocked, you can laugh and say, "Relax, I am just pulling your leg." It signals that you are joking. It ensures that the teasing doesn't go too far. It is a great phrase for building rapport with friends. It shows you have a sense of humor and you are comfortable enough to play around. In life, we often need general guidelines rather than strict scientific rules. We call a general, practical rule a rule of thumb. The origin is debated, but the meaning is clear. It is a rough guide. For example, when cooking rice, a rule of thumb is to use 2 cups of water for every 1 cup of rice. It might not be perfect for every type of rice, but it usually works. You might say, as a rule of thumb, you should arrive at the airport 2 hours before your flight. It provides helpful advice without being rigid. It is a very useful phrase for giving instructions or sharing wisdom. We talked about secrets before with letting the cat out of the bag. Another colorful phrase for revealing secrets is spill the beans. Imagine a jar of beans. If you knock it over, the beans go everywhere. You cannot hide them anymore. If you want to know what happened at a party you missed, you might ask your friend, "Come on, spill the beans." Who was there? It is a fun, slightly gossipy request for information. It creates a sense of intimacy and shared knowledge. It makes the conversation feel exciting and exclusive. Every person has a limit. When you have tolerated a bad situation for a long time and then one small final thing happens that makes you quit, that is the last straw. This comes from the proverb, "The straw that broke the camel's back." The camel can carry a lot, but eventually, one tiny piece of straw is too much. If your car breaks down for the 5th time this month, you might scream, "That is the last straw. I am buying a new car." It marks the end of patience. It is a definitive declaration of change. It explains why a big reaction might come from a small event. Let us talk about loyalty. True friends stay with you when life is good, but also when life is bad. We say they are with you through thick and thin. Thick refers to the dense forest, difficult to walk through. Thin refers to the easy, open woods. So if you stick together through thick and thin, you survive everything. You might say, "My wife and I have been together for 40 years, through thick and thin." It is a romantic and powerful testament to loyalty. It is what we all look for in our relationships. Sometimes business deals are not done openly. If money is paid secretly, usually to avoid taxes or laws, we say it is under the table. This is an idiom for illicit or unofficial activity. If someone pays a worker in cash without a contract, they are paying them under the table. You might say, "I did some work for my neighbor, and he paid me under the table." It is important to know this phrase to understand conversations about the economy or legal situations. It describes the shadow side of business. Imagine you are in a boat. You are paddling up a river. Suddenly, you lose your paddle. The current is strong. You are in big trouble. This is the origin of the phrase, "up the creek without a paddle." It means you are in a difficult situation with no easy way out. If you are about to give a presentation and your computer crashes, you are up the creek without a paddle. It is a humorous but descriptive way to express panic or helplessness. It paints a very clear picture of your predicament. Learning English can be complex. Sometimes a concept is so difficult that your brain struggles to understand it. You try to wrap your head around it. This implies stretching your mind to encompass the idea. You might say, "I'm trying to wrap my head around these phrasal verbs, but they are so confusing." It validates the difficulty of learning. It shows you are trying. It is a phrase of intellectual effort. Eventually, if you keep trying, you will wrap your head around it. Let us look at a phrase for curiosity. If you want to know what someone is thinking, you might say, "A penny for your thoughts." It is a sweet, gentle way to ask someone to share their mind. If your partner is looking out the window and seems quiet, you can sit beside them and say, "A penny for your thoughts." It is an invitation to share. It shows you care about their inner world. It is much more poetic than asking, "What are you thinking?" Sometimes people try to find a solution to a problem, but they are looking at it the wrong way. They are missing the obvious. You might say, "It is right under your nose." This means the object or solution is very close to you in plain sight, but you didn't see it. If you are looking for your glasses and they are on your head, they are right under your nose. It is a funny phrase about perception. It reminds us to look at what is directly in front of us. We are getting close to the end now. Let us talk about summarizing. When you want to state the main point or the ultimate result, you can say the bottom line is. This comes from accounting, where the bottom line shows the profit or loss. In conversation, it means the most important factor. You might say, "We discussed many options, but the bottom line is that we need to save money." It cuts through the noise. It focuses the conversation on the final decision. It is a strong leadership phrase. Similarly, if you want to describe a complex situation in a few words, you can say, "In a nutshell." A nutshell is small, so putting a story in a nutshell means keeping it brief. You might say, "In a nutshell, the movie was about a boy who learns to fly." It signals a summary. It is great for ending a long explanation. It tells the listener that you are respecting their time and giving them the short version. Let us talk about resilience one more time. When things are tough and you want to encourage someone to keep going, you can say, "Hang in there." Imagine hanging from a cliff. It is hard, but you must not let go. If your friend is having a hard time at work, you text them, "Hang in there, it will get better." It is a phrase of support and solidarity. It is like a verbal hug. It says, "I know it is hard, but you are strong enough to survive." And what about when life punches you? You have to roll with the punches. Boxers do this. When a punch comes, they move their body with it to lessen the impact. In life, this means adapting to adversity without breaking. If your flight is canceled, you don't cry. You book a hotel and explore the city. You roll with the punches. It is the definition of flexibility. It is the secret to a happy life. You cannot control the punches, but you can control how you roll with them. Finally, let us talk about safety. When you arrive home after a long trip, you want to tell your family you are okay. You say, "I arrived safe and sound." Safe means you are not hurt. Sound means you are whole and healthy. It is a comforting phrase. Every parent loves to hear their child say, "I am home safe and sound." It brings peace of mind. It is the perfect ending to a journey. And speaking of endings, we have a phrase for that too. When you want to finish a meeting or a project, you can say, "Let's wrap things up." Imagine wrapping a gift. You are finishing it and making it look nice. You might say, "This has been a great meeting. Let's wrap things up and go to lunch." It signals closure. It helps people transition to the next activity. It is polite and organized. And of course, the phrase we learned in the beginning, "Call it a day." As we reach the end of this series, we are about to call it a day. But before we do, I want to leave you with one final thought. We have covered 50 phrases. That is a lot of information. You might feel like your head is spinning. That is okay. You do not need to memorize all of them today. Think of these phrases as seeds. You have planted them in your mind. Now you need to water them with practice. Listen to English podcasts. Watch English movies. When you hear one of these phrases, smile and say, "I know that one." That moment of recognition is where fluency begins. Language is not just about grammar books and vocabulary lists. It is about connection. It is about understanding the soul of a culture. When you use idioms like break a leg or bite the bullet, you are stepping inside the English language. You are becoming a part of the community. You are no longer an outsider looking in. You are a participant. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me on this journey. Creating this series for English in Advance has been a labor of love. I hope you have found it helpful, engaging, and maybe even a little bit fun. Remember, every mistake you make is just a stepping stone to success. Do not be afraid to speak. Do not be afraid to sound silly. Just open your mouth and let the words come out. If you enjoyed this series, please do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel English in Advance so you never miss a future lesson. Share this podcast with a friend who is also learning. Leave a comment and tell me which phrase was your absolute favorite. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep creating content for you. So for the final time in this series, this is Jessica, signing off. You are amazing. You are capable. And you are well on your way to mastering English. Keep your chin up, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next adventure. Stay safe and sound. Goodbye for now.